launching these businesses, most people, when they think about, oh, I need balance, what they think about is I just need to do less and less and less. It sounds like you were doing more while also getting the balance. So how did you think about operating, growing the business, managing everything else while at the same time optimizing your health, lowering your stress, getting more sleep? What did that practically look like?
Every day, take 5 minutes. I like to do it in the morning, but you can do it before bed, and check in on, yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. And when I say spirit, I mean your energy, your actual, where you sit with yourself, and make sure you check in with yourself. Ask
Mm.
yourself a couple of questions. Did I get through the day, or am I going to be presenting this day for the top 3 priorities? What are they for today? Really kind of meditating with yourself. And I really do feel like that is a start of where you can start to self-assess where those stressors are coming.
As high performers, we always have so much going on. There's always so much overwhelm. We've got this business and that business, and there's always so many million things to do. Well, our guest today, she had that same problem, and at the age of 39, she had a heart attack. She had to go in for heart surgery. But her response to that wasn't to do less work. She actually, from that, started doing more work, but she did it with better energy, better health, just better, what she calls balance, which means to do more, but actually love it and be energized by it. So I'm really excited to have our guest today, because not only is she the CEO and founder of RedLilly Media, but she is also the VP of Media and Editor-in-Chief at Success Magazine. And so welcome to the show today, Kerrie Lee Brown.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
I know you've been at Success as VP of Media and Editor-in-Chief for about a year and a half. The people that are listening to this show are range the gamuts of smaller businesses to executives at bigger companies. Everybody's looking for ideas on how to grow and scale. And I know you've done a lot with Success Magazine over this past year and a half. Why don't you kind of give us a little bit of an insight into what your focus at Success Magazine has been as the VP of Media there over this last year and a half?
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me. I always enjoy talking about my experience in media and publishing, and where I've been able to take many brands, because ultimately it does help a lot of entrepreneurs and those who are in the world of basically expanding their horizons in regards to business. So since I came on to Success, I was actually recruited on. I was sought after because I've been in media for 30 years, particularly in the magazine space, the print magazine and digital content as it's evolved over time. And when I came on, Success Magazine, of course, is a 130-year-old brand. I mean, it's been around for a long time. I like to joke and say, I haven't worked for Success that long, 130 years. But I was really, really honored to take this position as VP Media, because I really felt not only do I love the brand, I love what it stands for. It's a very aspirational, but also inspirational brand for many, many, many people over the years. But what I wanted to bring to the table, and which I have done in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, is brought a breadth of, I guess you could say, newness to it. So we still
Mm.
focus, of course, on the CEO and all of those success stories of people who have really, really done some amazing things in their business and in their finances and in their lives. But I also have brought to the table now the startups, the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs who are just starting out, which can also
Mm.
range in age. And so that is one of the areas that I really wanted to bring to the table, because not only we're more than just a print magazine now, right? We're a
Yeah.
digital media multimedia company with a broad membership base and everything for all of our digital assets, our events, all of the things that we do. And I knew that the audience was growing. So when I came on, I really focused on, we did research about who was reading our publication, who we were featuring in our publication,
Mm.
who we were putting on our covers, and getting that kind of broad audience feedback. And the feedback was that a lot of people were younger, and they wanted to also know the tricks of the trade and how to get, exposure, and also how to get their brand evolved out there in this multimedia kind of world now, and
Mm.
even the world of AI. So we brought a lot of those topics to the table. Me and my team, I have a terrific team, and we're very, very close in how we kind of operate on the day to day. And I brought in a lot of different columns to the magazine as well. We now focus also on philanthropy and giving back. We focus on marketing and personal branding, on AI and tech and innovation. So some of those are very new to the Success publication. So we've really evolved it, and so far so good. We're getting a lot of great feedback.
Then what I'm curious is because I mean I know we were in there, which was a really big deal for us to be featured in Success. For us, I mean that was just as an entrepreneur that's been doing business for so long. For us, that was a big validation of a payoff. I've always kind of seen it, but I've been in business long enough that I was reading the magazines before there was a lot of online media. I mean, there was
Right.
the web and all that. So you've been in the business for 30 years. When did you start seeing that demographic shift where, hey, there is a lot more younger entrepreneurs that are looking for information, looking for advice?
Yeah, I mean, it was before Success, really. I mean, obviously, I've worked in media and print publications specifically for about, like I said, 3 decades. I've seen it,
Mm,
I've been around the block, and I've also been around before even websites were out there to promote brands, businesses, and publications. So I have been seeing this transition in the publishing world to the online space and our content development, and also the younger audience really came about when social media started. Because as soon as social media started several years ago, as we all know, the actual audience of our publication started to change because we were
mm,
getting more exposure online to a broader global audience. This was even before Success, before I joined
yeah.
Success. And I've worked at many, many publications. So really, that's kind of at the time when the younger audience started really noticing content, really started engaging in magazine articles, wanting to be featured. And then also, of course, throughout the pandemic, when a lot more people were starting their home businesses, that was another
Yes.
thing that, jump up several years, is that really has catapulted that need or yearning of entrepreneurs, younger people wanting to get exposure, wanting to engage with editors, wanting to get their name out there in the social world, which obviously reflects on the content creation on the digital and print side. So it's been several years that I've started to see this trend,
Mm,
obviously, as the world has changed in the form of communications. I have my background is in obviously journalism, but also corporate communications and media as well. So it's kind of all come to a head here at Success where I work now, because this role really reflects everything I've touched on in my whole
mm.
career, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'd like to keep on top of the trends in regards to content creation and business and entrepreneurship, and even our corporate communications world has changed so much in the last several years because of AI and tech. So just
It's
staying on
getting
top of
it's
that.
getting crazy, isn't it?
It
With
really
the
is, and we're having to keep up with it because obviously I'm a traditionally trained journalist, and now
yes.
journalists are starting to use AI in their writing, and it's new to a lot of people,
Mm,
and even back down to not only media ethics, but also in regards to keeping up with it, and how do you stay on
yes.
top of it, and fact checking and research, and it's really changed the game for journalists for sure.
What I'm curious about, because you said two things that I think completely changed the world rapidly. That was, as a lead generation company, we saw 2020 as a time where everybody went online. We used to have an office in Miami and a bunch
Mhm.
of teammates there. We went remote, and we saw before COVID, half of our calls didn't want to be on Zoom calls. We'd have to do the phone with them, and then after COVID, it was like this acceleration of everybody being comfortable being online,
Yes.
working remote, all of those pieces. Now, fast forward a little bit, we have AI that's, being in the lead generation world, that's affected us a lot. We've built some of our own AI tools and all of these pieces, but it's constantly and rapidly changing. And anybody says that they've got it all figured out is full of it. It is
Yeah.
absolutely full of it because there's so much to figure out. So I'm curious, with all those shifts, where are you seeing media and journalism going with AI? Like, how do you think about that a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out?
Well, it's an interesting question because, again, you're right. No one's an expert on it right now. We're kind of going with the flow as things come up and new things are coming. We as a media outlet we have started to implement some of these AI integrations and these platforms and softwares. One just recently, we started doing AI generated voice podcast episodes,
Mm,
and I just started doing those a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure you've heard about those. One of the things, though, I might be a little bit of a stickler, but I haven't allowed our freelance writers or writers to utilize AI in our articles. I still feel like there's a bit of a church and state there in regards to real journalism, which I
sure.
want to stick to. However, I do appreciate and do obviously recognize the need for the technology and the AI space in the marketing side, in the campaign development side, promotional side, social media side. I understand that, but when it comes to actual editorial, we like to keep our obviously our articles handwritten, if you will,
Mm,
by our
yeah.
writers, and we have tracking tools to check that and to make sure that all of our writers are staying up on board. But yeah, there's a lot of really great tools out there, and like I just spoke actually at the end of this last August at a innovation summit. It was called a Volcano Innovation Summit in Guatemala, and a big topic there was the integration of AI and tech into marketing and media.
Yep.
And it's happening. We can't get away from it. So I mean, everybody is trying to stay on top of it as much as they can, but at the
Yeah.
same time, we're still trying to explore what is that kind of media ethics line that we shouldn't cross.
It's kind of the wild, wild west right now, and
Yes.
there's a lot of good things happening, but it is, I mean, in our industry, everything's shaken up. There's a lot of bad people using it in a bad way, where they're just kind of labeling it AI. We're using this AI tool, and it's the sophistication. But if you don't know how to use a tool, if you're not using the right data, if you're not fact checking in journalism, if just creating a lot of noise, that's hard to break through. So how do you see all this noise being created through automated generated content? I know Google's created algorithms to, restrict any AI content that they see out there from search rankings, but it's always going to be a battle where the
Yeah.
machine gets smarter and back and forth. And a few years out, like, how do you see just people wanting to find authentic human connection versus people just saying, hey, the AI's got better information than, do you see people, they're becoming a divergent, almost like the hipsters that want to go back to the old records, and
Right.
then the group of the futurists that just want just the machine to feed them? I mean, this is totally just predicting and prophesying, but where do you see 5 years out journalism being?
Well, I mean, it's a really good question. I think, I mean, you could say I'm one of those hipsters. I'm an old school journalist, but I'm a heartfelt storyteller. So my instinct, and also where I would like to still see journalism go, and where I would like to see myself as a trailblazer in that area in the next 5 years, is still keeping that human connection.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I started my storytelling platform, which is redlilylife.com. I started it for women, but men have also contributed to it to share their authentic stories, not utilizing AI. It's their stories from the heart. And I'm hoping to lead the charge so that, we can break through that AI kind of infiltration, if you will, into the world of journalism. So it becomes more humanistic.
Yeah.
Where it will go in the world of the corporate world, and, publications that are really trying to survive out there, because print, has obviously is a dying, form of communication these days. And I'm lucky to be still at the forefront of a print publication. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see more and more AI platforms used. But I'm hoping that I will be able to set myself and my publications, wherever I am in 5 to 10 years, apart by still having that human side. And I think,
Yeah.
add to that, and you're doing it right now, like with podcasts and these kind of open conversations. I mean, we're not using AI to manipulate our conversation. These are the kind of things where I can see taking publications to the next level. And Success does that too. We have a podcast as well, and we have a lot of speakers that are our ambassadors out on the road talking about, in person, so that those would be the way that the content is being extended in a more human way. I'm hoping anyway. I guess we'll
I'm
see.
gonna and I might be asking you the hard questions, like, welcome to the show. Where do you see journalism with AI? Is it gonna, and so thank you
Who
for
knows?
for being willing to have those conversations, because it is, I mean, being in journalism, as long as you have like this, I love that you're thinking about it, you're talking about it, you're on the forefront, because you can't ignore it. And where you're going, people are gonna still want authenticity. At the end of the day, it's like you can use a new technology, and I've seen gimmicks over and over again in lead generation, including AI, there becomes a point where the moment somebody can recognize the gimmick or the inauthentic, like when it's not authentic, the moment they realize that, you lose so much credibility. And we'll see
Yes.
lead rates. Maybe we have this, we do this one thing and it works for 6 months, and we look up their name, use this AI thing, and it kind of makes it feel like a personal message. And then the moment that it gets saturated and people kind of can catch that pattern, they check out. And so I think there will always be the moment people feel that there's a robot trying to be a human connecting with them versus a human connecting. Absolutely. And so I think I love that you're both value that, but also are on the forefront and having a conversation around AI. So definitely applaud you on that. Thank you for letting me ask the hard questions. I'm grilling
Absolutely.
you
I
on that.
enjoy this. I like the open conversations for sure.
Well, let's make a shift, because I mean, I love your title, Success Magazine. That means that you, if they poached you and they went out and they got you, it means you're doing something super good, right? But you have a lot more going on. You're the CEO and founder of RedLilly Media. You do a lot of stuff with health. And I know you had some heart issues yourself, and just creating balance and health and business, which is kind of crazy because VP Media, editor in chief, running your own company, you have communities that I'm excited to share with our audience that you're going to be launching this new year, and some new programs. Let's talk about you as the CEO and founder. Tell me a
Sure.
little bit more about RedLilly Media and like how you've kind of built that company.
Yeah, and I mean, it all stems really from my experience in journalism. So, as a creative and a creative artist, I've freelanced and written for so many publications over the years, probably close to 200 now worldwide, individual titles,
Yeah.
and I continue to do so. And I've always gotten a lot of people coming to me, whether they be aspiring journalists, wondering how can I get published in all these different magazines? How can I build my portfolio? So, I've done a lot of speaking engagements at universities and colleges, and talking to all of these youngsters who are coming up through the ranks. And then when I did have a heart attack at age 39, and it just rocked my world, not only from a
Wow.
physical perspective, but from a mental, emotional, and obviously, that kind of looking at my own life and how I was attacking stress at the time or dealing with it in such a high powered public kind of facing role in the media. And it really changed my way of thinking about how executives and CEOs, and also, people in the public eye, are taking care of themselves inside, and we always hear this, that like a lot of people don't it's usually the ones that look like they have it all together or have no issues at all that are really dealing with some demons. And so it really made me look inside too, talking about the health side. So from there, I decided to write a book about it. So my book is called My Heart, Myself, and it's on Amazon or on my website, kerrieleebrown.com. And I really went over all that I went through in that whole personal health kind of crisis stage. And
Yeah.
from that, I got a lot of great feedback from people who not only read my book, but also heard my story about me coming forth with my health crisis and being vulnerable enough in the media. And also in, at the time I was interviewed on TV quite a bit about it, was because I was a young mom, and I was obviously a high powered editor in chief at the time in Toronto, which is where I'm from. And I had a lot on the go, and I really had to come to terms with being vulnerable and sharing my story, that stress was a main indicator of my health issues. And so in doing so, I got a lot of great feedback from people saying, I can relate. I'm really
Mm.
happy that you've come out and explained that stress can really be a physical killer. And so once that happened, I decided to start my business, redlilymedia.com, or Red Lily Media LLC, because I really knew there was other ways that I could give back. So I do consulting about, heart health, and I do consulting on how to balance work life, how to bring self care into the executive room, into the boardroom, and how, corporate wellness, why it's so important these days with all the pressures we have to balance everything. So
Yes.
that's how my business came up to be. And I did that all on the side while
Mm.
I was obviously working at different magazines during the day, trying to balance that. I mean, I am a living kind of conundrum there, because I am trying to
Right? That's what
balance it.
I'm trying to think like, oh my gosh, you have this heart attack from overwork and stress. So your response to it is, let me write a book and start this new company and do all these pieces. What I love about what you said there is one thing that when I was in college, I kept cutting 30 minutes of sleep every day off, like, or every week I'd cut 30 minutes off, and I would try to trim down my sleep as much as I could. And until one time I was doing a final exam and I went to sleep and I woke up in the hospital and I had a seizure from sleep deprivation. And
Wow.
that made me kind of look into this, because for a long time as entrepreneurs, as just as high performing people in career or whatever, there was like this badge of honor, like, oh, I'm sleep deprived. Well, I'm more sleep deprived. And I think this was some years later, it started coming out where there was like these really high level entrepreneurs that are like, hey, I get 8 hours of sleep a night. I get 9 hours of sleep. You got to get sleep,
You have to.
and so I think that shift is not only just good for health and for balance, but when you actually are well rested and you're in a good mental state, you produce way
Yeah.
more with your time and have way more outcome. So I'd love to think about, you're launching these businesses. Most people, when they think about, oh, I need balance, what they think about is, I just need to do less and less and less. It sounds like you were doing more while
Mhm.
also getting the balance. So how did you think about um, operating, growing the business, managing everything else, while at the same time optimizing your health, lowering your stress, getting more sleep? What did that practically look like?
And it's a great question because I actually do outline all of my process in my book, but it was because it was very therapeutic for me to write this book because I was going through that. How am I going to change my lifestyle, if you will, but still have these really demanding jobs and travel schedules and also being a mom and a wife and all of that. And to be honest, I really feel like the heart health initiative for me has, and the self-care initiative has really been my calling. Like since that happened, I know it might seem cliche, but things happen in your life and sometimes you change your trajectory. Well,
Yeah.
the what kept me going was knowing that this message I had to get out to the larger audience because it is not only myself, but there were so many people coming out of the forefront saying your words and your message about what happened to you has actually changed my life.
Wow.
So to be honest, it's like I did add more work onto my plate, but it wasn't work that was like the typical work that I'm like, oh, I'm just doing it for a paycheck. I don't do it for it. Like this is something I feel I'm destined to do.
Mm.
So it wasn't like extra work to me. I've also, one of the other ways is that I've started to infiltrate a lot of that into my actual professional kind of path. So I do spit public speaking, I do workshops at universities, like I said, and I also have brought it into my way of writing in my publications. A lot of people will say I'm a heartfelt storyteller now, even in my writing in Success Magazine. I like to bring that in. So it's actually changed the way I actually do business on the day to day as well. So it might look like a lot more work, but it's more fulfilling to me now, knowing
Mm.
that it's a real message that I want to share. And the way that I'm now, moving with my business and with what my message is moving more into that heart awareness space. And this doesn't just have to do with people who have heart problems. This is more of a mind heart thing. It's about a body and
Yeah.
soul so that you can kind of recognize when you're stressed or when there's something not feeling good energetically with you, in your workspace, in your relationships, in your home life, because you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. It's about being productive and it's about where you put your energy and where you want to be fulfilled in life. That is how you're going to stay healthy, you're going to stay happier, and ultimately you're going to be more successful if that's what that looks like for you. So for me, I have a lot of things coming up in the new year, but I think that they're going to aid in my message to helping other
Yeah.
people. And so that's kind of where I stand with it. I don't really see it as more work other than more commitment to that message.
A lot of times people are saying, oh, I just, they're waiting till the day that they are able to do the thing that they're passionate about, versus taking the perspective of seeing what they're doing right now as the milestone to where they're going. Right.
Mhm.
And so when you're dealing with something and it's overwhelming and it's stressing, that wears you down, you're getting tired. But on the other side, when you started doing these things that lit you up and you got excited about, it was like energizing. It was reviving. So how did the other areas of work that used to stress you, did you take a new perspective on those? Did you create new meaning and therefore they became energizing? Did you just say, hey, I'm going to eliminate these things that cause stress and I'm going to add these? What did that look like practically for you to create that balanced life? outside of just the new initiatives that you were doing?
So I did make some major life changes. So one was we moved to the US from Canada. That was right very shortly after I had my cardiac surgery, and I had been healing. And my husband got an opportunity to move to Denver, Colorado, and it was part of that change, where I
Mm,
was looking at the pressures and the stress of my current job back in Toronto, and I had a long commute into work. We lived on the outskirts, and I commuted. I think it was 2 hours each way every day. It was 4 hours a day.
wow.
Years. And so, like on the train, on the subway, the big city life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, all these things happen at one time, and the universe, or whatever, God sent this opportunity for our family to move to the US. So I took it up and we did it. And I knew that that was going to be the change, the beginning of the change of the way I looked at certain priorities in my life. I started to be a lot more picky about what, professional endeavors I started to tackle. So when I
Mm,
landed in Denver, I didn't have a job. Like, I came for my husband's job at that time, but as a journalist and as an entrepreneur, I started to pick up some contracts and clients. But I really started to be aware of who I wanted to work with and whether the right client came through the door, if they were going to add unnecessary stress to my life. You just have instincts, you have feelings about
yes.
certain things. You just know it's an intuition. And I started to be more picky. So those were some of the practical things. I started to be more picky about where I put my professional work. I started to obviously look at my own health and physical fitness and wellness,
Yes.
way I ate, the way I supplemented, different things that I wasn't getting, the right nutrition, if you will. And then I also started looking at different things like other self care tactics and meditating and all that type of thing. And I really started to implement them into my life, making them a priority, because, again, the healthier you are, the happier you're going to be, the more productive you're going to be, not only in the workspace, but also the more productive and more there you're going to be for your family. And that became a
Mm,
priority. So I shifted my priorities from like a physical, a mental, and an emotional state, really. And that's kind of where I am today. And I'm not to say that I'm 100% there, right? Every day
yeah, of
is still
course.
a challenge for all of us, right? We all try to juggle everything, but I do have to put my priorities where I feel they are best. And it's really served me in the long run. So
Just to say it a nice way, we have a no jerk policy when it comes to our clientele as well.
there you
Right?
go.
Because anybody that didn't catch this, rewind and listen, because you gave so much value around being proactive about your health, your energy, your happiness, your well being, not reactive. Right. So
Right.
these big challenges can come in our lives and they kind of wake us up and go, oh, we got to fix something. And your response wasn't, oh, poor me, like, let me just check out. Your response was, how can I be proactive about this? How can I make sure I'm doing things that energize me? For me, I'm really big on, and for Cindy as well, we're really big on optimizing the day. So let me do a meditation before I get stressed. Let me have that in my routine before I get burnout. Let me take a nap before I get exhausted. And if you can be proactive about doing the things before you're in recovery mode or before you're overwhelmed or before you're stressed, you can actually live in a state of energy and excitement. And not that you're not going to have times when it's hard and gritty, like there is definitely going to be those times, but I think what I love about your mindset is that that doesn't have to be the high performer life of just, it's just hard and it's
Mhm.
going to be horrible and terrible. You can actually have energy and health and good relationships. And in fact, if you have all those things running, you actually do everything else better
Yeah.
because you're firing on all cylinders. And wow, this is incredible. And so you share this in your book, some
Yes.
more of your practical tips. Where can they
Yes.
get that book?
Yeah, and actually, it's funny. Just before I say that, it's actually about being more intentional. So it's not
Mm,
necessarily lessening the workload, if you will. It's being more intentional about where your energy goes, your time and effort. And then when you are happier internally and out, that's where
oh,
not only productivity comes out, but your
wow.
happiness, and again, ultimately your success. So in my book, I go over, in My Heart Myself. It's a guide for women who do too much. But like I said, a lot of men have read this and really picked up a lot of great great tips. And I'm working on my second book now, which will be an update. But you can get it on Amazon.com, and you can also get it at KerrieLeeBrown.com. And it really is a nice, easy read, because I like to stress that people should be keeping this type of book by their side table before bed and have a read, because it's a great reminder of how to check in with yourself. I've got brain breaks in there and some exercises to really kind of like, take a check in to your own lifestyle and where these stressors are coming in from the day to
Yes.
day, and then to basically get back on track, if you will. And it really outlines 10 steps you need to slow down. And so that's really practical tips. It's a very practical little guidebook. And then on the flip side, it's funny because I was going to write another book last year, and I decided to really throw my time into my storytelling platform, because not only did I want to allow a place for me to share my story to more of a bigger, larger audience globally, I wanted to be able to give that opportunity for anybody else out there to share their story. So that's where the concept of RedLillyLife.com came up. And now I have over 1,500 contributors on there. And I allow people to share their story for free, by the way. This is my give back. You just submit your story. I'll post it, I'll design it, and everything else. And then it's a place where, one, people can get published. Two, they can share even a snippet of their story in any shape or form. And then also, three, they can utilize that as a platform to build their own brand. So that's what I've done with my own health story. And the stories that people are sharing on there, by the way, aren't just health related. They can be work, they can be relationships, they can be, trauma filled, they can be healing, they can be all good.
Yes.
It's just really about transformation. And that really is the next step in my own evolution as well.
I love it. I love it. Cindy and I have both invested both time and money heavily into optimizing your life, your energy, your sleep. And so anybody listening, if you need a little bit more help on your energy, your mindset, definitely grab the book. Because even if there's just one thing that you get up, which I'm sure there'll be a lot more than one thing, but there's one thing that you can get in there to optimize your day better, to make you happier, more energized, more proactive, completely worth it. Again, Cindy and I have been obsessed about how do we make every area of our lives 1% better every day. And I think what it sounds like to me is you're doing that. And what I see is a workload increase, a stress decrease. And I love it. There's not very many people that are able to do both those. And I love that you're sharing the value 100%. I want to make sure our guests can get a hold of you, though. What is the best way for our audience to reach out to you, to connect with you? Where should they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most direct way would be an email, obviously. And you can email CEO at redlilymedia.com, and it's REDLILY media.com, or check out my website, KerrieLeeBrown.com. And then the other way, of course, to connect directly on social media on pretty much all platforms, including LinkedIn and X and Instagram, Facebook, at Kerrie Lee Brown. And I have all of my other links kind of tied to that as well. Not only will you see a lot of, what I'm doing currently with Success Magazine and the people that I interview and the people that I'm able to bring their stories to life, because I do promote all of that. I'm also promoting, self-care, heart health, and awareness about anything to do with slowing down. So if that in any way helps people, that's kind of where I love to put my time and effort. And then another big thing that I'm working on now, and I do offer, is consulting in this area, not only from a health, a self-care perspective, but also for entrepreneurs and, business owners on corporate wellness, how to talk to your staff about implementing self-care and, time management. And then also I'm offering media training now to executives and also business owners who want to create a really good persona out there in the media.
It is incredibly important. We have a team and about 2025. And we are very big bringing our knowledge of sleep, health, meditation, taking breaks, all of this to our team. And so if you do this for yourself, you will perform a lot better. If you can bring this knowledge to your team, into your company, into your organization, you will see just a huge difference in your growth. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs and business owners, they don't see the direct connection to bottom line of bringing in health and awareness around that, and awareness of how to really optimize their employees. So I think 100%, if you run a company, if you're an employee at a company, make sure to reach out. I mean, if it was me, I would just email you. How cool is that I get to shoot a direct email to the VP of Media and editor in chief at Success Magazine. What a great connection there. Make sure to connect with Kerrie 100%. I know you've got some really great stuff coming up this new year. So by the time you're listening to this, you're about to launch a few new things. So make sure to follow Kerrie and keep up to date on everything she's doing. And Kerrie, this has just been absolutely amazing having you on the show. I just know people listening to this can make that shift before they have a crisis like your heart attack. And so maybe what's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is starting to feel that stress and they're starting to feel like, man, my energy is low. I don't know, like what would you say for people to be proactive so they don't have to have a crisis like you had?
Yeah, and it's funny because I speak often to not only entrepreneurs and individuals, but also to leaders who manage teams, like you alluded to. And we can all be, change makers in this area, right? We can not only check in with our own self if we are starting to feel stress from, the physical ailments of feeling stressed when you've got a migraine or when you're feeling run down or your lack of sleep is really making you lethargic. Those are real indicators that you are in a stressful situation, whether it be personal or professional. But we can also be really good leaders. And, you don't have to run a team to be a leader. You could be a leader in your community. You could be a leader, amongst your children. You can set a really good example of how you are checking in with yourself. So a piece of advice for me is to every day take 5 minutes. I like to do it in the morning, but you can do it before bed and check in on, yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. And when I say spirit, I mean your energy, your actual, where you sit with yourself, and make sure you check in with yourself. Ask yourself a couple of questions. Did I get through the day, or am I going to be presenting this day for the top 3 priorities? What are they for today? Really kind of meditating with yourself. And I really do feel like that is a start of where you can start to self-assess where those stressors are coming from. If there's something lagging and you're like, oh, I don't want to see that employee again or that client, or I don't want to deal, then it's almost self-explanatory where you should be, either not putting your efforts or making a change so that you're not having to deal with that person or that situation. And I mean, these aren't overnight decisions. I mean, sometimes it's years in the making, but I do think that once you become aware of where your stressors are coming from, then you can put in a plan in place and kind of work towards alleviating them. So that would be my one piece of advice. I mean, I could give you tons, but I think that a daily check-in with yourself and some quiet time for 5 to 10 minutes every day is really important.
I love it. Well, Kerrie Lee Brown, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show today. And you truly have brought so much value. Anybody listening to this episode, listen through again. Make sure to connect with Kerrie. I'm really excited to see what you got launched in the new year. You gave me a little bit of insight, but everybody else, you're going to have to follow Kerrie Lee on social media to see what she's got coming up. Well, again, this is The Takeover, where we show you how to dominate in every area of life and business. Stay winning.